Hello, Revere, and welcome to the May 2019 Memorial Day for our veterans. But before we start the show, I would like to have a 15-second of silence for the Gold Star mothers and their families who have sacrificed their sons and daughters for our country. Thank you. Thank you. Before we start the show officially, I would like to make one point clear. I am a World War II veteran. I was not in combat. I went in 1946 at the age of less than 17 and a half. And the only reason I am a World War II veteran is because President Harry Truman made 1946 the official end of World War II. The real heroes are all of us who served in World War II, but the bigger heroes are the ones that fought in combat. And I would like to thank every veteran that served in World War II and every veteran that's serving now. Mark, you did a beautiful job on the Vietnam veterans things, but you got other plans, so why don't you start the show with that?
Well, thank you, Morris. I greatly appreciate it. But before we go there, I want to say thank you for your service.
Thank you, and I thank you for yours.
And
You're a
thank you.
Vietnam veteran.
Vietnam, come on. Are you World War I?
No, World War II.
I know, and
I may look like World
I'm
War.
Afghanistan.
I don't know. I may look like World War I, but I'm World War II.
But no, for real, everyone has their job, everyone has their duty, and when it comes to the service. And without people like yourselves in the rear and in administration and stuff like that, the guys out in the front lines don't get communications, they don't get food, they don't get clothing, they don't get the essentials, they don't get support. And, you know, everyone has a job, and let's not forget that. And don't ever diminish your service to this country.
I consider myself, thank God, I would do it all over again if I could.
Thank you.
But I don't think they would take me now. Not because I'm too young, but because I have problems with my legs.
Well, they might be able to use you on commercials, because you're a beauty, I tell you.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, we do. We have an exciting agenda coming up for Memorial Day. Before we get into Memorial Day, you mentioned the Vietnam breakfast. That
was great, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you, and I thank the Vietnam veterans of our city and of the state and of the country, because it seemed that after World War II, the country was, the world was almost liberated. Right. So everyone supported those veterans to the 10th degree. And then the issue happened, you know, after the Korean War, and in the war, the country was kind of like war tired a little bit, you know. Complacent
is the word I would like to use.
So when we got into the Vietnam War and they started to go back, but the people who like treated the veterans the way they did. It wasn't just
no, it was
civilians.
A disgrace. I'll be honest with you.
It was across the board, and that's why I thank a Vietnam veteran every chance I get. And people wonder why, you know, with a veteran sometimes it's strange when a veteran says thank you for your service, but I thank them because everything that we are getting today is because of the things that they didn't get yesterday.
That's true.
And I support and I thank every Vietnam veteran from the bottom of my heart.
I would like to say one thing. They consider World War II veterans the greatest generation, but everyone that puts on the American uniform and saves our military, they are also part of the greatest generation. So don't forget that, folks. We're all brothers and sisters.
You're absolutely right, Morris.
Okay.
So,
it's all yours now.
So, thank you, Morris. Really super excited about our 2019 Memorial Day ceremony. It's going to be at the Legion Hall, 249 Broadway on the American Legion lawn. Rain or shine, we have tents, so please come out. We have an extra special guest, Morris.
Right, and what are the times there, if I may ask you, Mark?
We're going to be starting the ceremony at 11 a.m. on the Legion lawn, like I said. Afterwards, we'll be going to Casa Lucia for a luncheon. All are welcome. Nick, our keynote speaker, is coming, obviously, to speak at the ceremony, and he's coming afterwards, and people are going to get the honor to meet him and you know, get pictures with him. Very humble. great guy. And if there's ever an American hero, this gentleman is him. He's a Boston native, so that makes it even better. In 2013, Nick received 3 Purple Hearts, a Silver Star, a Bronze Star with Valor for heroism in combat. That same deployment, he lost his leg. He then challenged the military, becoming the first above-the-knee amputee to go back into fight with the Special Forces. And he went to his 5th deployment last year. He's still active duty. He was just promoted to warrant officer now, Nicholas Lavery.
That's great.
And he'll be flying in from Nashville, Tennessee to host our Memorial Day event, and I couldn't be more excited to combine it with the 75th anniversary of D-Day and to honor some of our World War II veterans that we have still remaining in the city and families of World War II veterans.
Right.
It's going to be pretty special, Morris.
Right, that's great. Talking about families, we have some families in Revere that you would like to remember, so why don't you do that, Mark?
Actually, I had the honor of presenting in front of the City Council last night. We have some tremendous families from the city of Revere. And you know, Morris, I always find myself at these memorial services talking about the veterans and the great things that they've done in service, but talking about the legacy they've left behind and what their children have done. And we have a great list of families being recognized. We have the Festa family from Joseph Festa,
Right.
who was in the Navy. He was on the USS Missouri, USS Norfolk, USS Bryan Bridge, served during World War II, supporting the fight. We have the family of Albert Champoli being recognized. Albert did amazing things, was with the 398th Military Police over in World War II. He did Rhineland in Central Europe. At the time was living at 483 Malden Street in Revere. We have the Mercurio family, who we know his sons have done so much, keeping the city up, and the landscaping company, and just being great men, and you know, the Festa family as well, everything they've done. Paul Champoli, like I said, was a cop himself after his dad. We have Robert Kosha from the Korean War. We're honoring the Kosha family. And he came back to do great things at Revere High, being a teacher for many, many years. And these are the special things you get to do to honor veterans. We have another World War II veteran, Basil Bova family. And as I was doing research, Morris, it became great because I was looking. Some of these gentlemen lived within blocks of each other as kids, 17, 16, 17. They were in the war at the same time, some of them in the same battles at the same time, living on the same streets. And I would love to know if they actually knew that or ever have come across that information. So we had an anniversary of D-Day planned for June 6th. It was a motion put in by Councilor Rizzo. So we decided over the weekend, I was talking to Councilor Rizzo, and last night at the council meeting as well, we spoke and we both agreed that Memorial Day may be a better day to combine the two, where we're going to focus on the D-Day anniversary afterwards at Casa Lucia, bringing in the families of the World War II that we're honoring those family members. Some of these guys were there through D-Day and more.
Are some of those still alive, Mark?
Actually, none of these people are no longer with us. That's the sad part. We also have a memorial being dedicated to our city councilor in Ward 1, Joanne McKenna, for her dad's service.
She's a great counselor.
Great counselor. Another great man who came back, showed the right way to do things. And look, his daughter was great and served all those years as a teacher and continues to serve on the council. So, I mean, we have a pretty exciting Memorial Day event between Nick, between honoring the World War II, between getting a chance to honoring these families. And I have to say, it's with great support of our mayor, his administration, the city council, everyone coming together, because there's one thing that's non-political, Morris, and that's veterans.
I agree with you. But can I add something to it?
Absolutely.
I'm also a veteran, and it hurts me when I see that some of the schools in this country will not do the Pledge of Allegiance because they don't want to offend other people. They're not offending other people. They're offending me, and I don't like that. I'll be honest with you. I think we should all do the pledge, just like we did in World War II. We all were patriotic. I like to see that go back to the old-fashioned way again. The Yankees, and I happen to be a fanatical Yankee fan, took away God Bless America because of something Kate Smith did. The song didn't hurt anybody, so they should put that back in. They do it all the time. It was written by an immigrant, God Bless America, Irving Berlin, who came from Russia, became a great American, wrote great songs, and we use them all the time. He also wrote, by the way, folks, White Christmas, great song. We do it all the time. So don't ever blame the music, but blame the people behind it. Thank you.
Absolutely, Morris. And you know, it's tough. And the way I look at things, we can choose to look at the big picture and get upset, or we can choose...
I do get upset when I see things like that because...
But what I'm saying is we can choose to get upset, or we can choose to make sure that our piece of the pie, the city of Revere, is patriotic.
Oh, we are.
And we are patriotic, and we have heroes that have come out of this city like you wouldn't believe. I've done the research and the history behind our city, and it's almost amazing to see the amount of heroics that come from World War I and on, Civil War, mind you, and on. And those people will be remembered on Memorial Day because that's what that's about. You know, we can't control what happens elsewhere, but we can control what happens in this city. And I think that we're doing a great job in supporting our veterans.
Too. We named the city after a great hero, and I was not around at the time the city was named after Paul Revere. I know you may think I was, but I wasn't. But we did name the city after one of the great heroes of the Revolutionary War that founded over here.
Correct.
So we're, you know, this is how we started. Our history of this country began in New England. It began in Boston. It began in Revere. It began in Lexington. It began right here in Massachusetts, and that's where it all started.
Yes, you're right.
And I hope it never ends here.
No, I don't think so. I see it actually growing. I see the
good. I'm glad to hear that.
Patriotism growing more. I see the support for veterans growing more, and I can only say it's unbelievably exciting. We're a majority of the way through the cemeteries, flagging the graves for memorial, the people that have passed since. And we're getting there, Morris. It's going to be a special holiday this year.
I would like to thank one more. He's not a veteran, but his son was one of the great veterans. Mr. Paul Monty, whose son passed away, was a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. He does the flags every single Memorial Day and Veterans Day down at Bourne National Cemetery. So, Mr. Monty, thank you for your service. You may not be a veteran, but you do a lot of good stuff, sometimes better than veterans themselves. So thank you.
Paul Monty's one of the great ones.
And let's not forget Mr. from Operation Troop Support.
Dick Moody, another great one. Paul Monty was our keynote speaker on my first year as Veteran Service Officer. I picked up the phone, never met the man, never spoke to him. I said, Andy Biggs gave me a number, sir. I'd like to have you. When I got to Afghanistan, his son Jared was like folklore.
Right.
He was already passed, but everyone knew about Fob Monty, the story behind Fob Monty, and how his son passed. And
they even wrote a song about his truck.
Yes, they did. And it was a hit, actually.
Yep.
And it's going to be great, Morris. Just I'll bring the combinations together. And actually, a great thing I was looking at the other day. about the D-Day part of it with the Green Berets.
Oh, I was going to get to that. Before we get to the Green Berets, I would like you to talk about D-Day that happened in 1944. You had a great story about that, so why don't you do that, Mark?
I do, Morris. So it was June 6th, 1944, obviously, and there was a private in the 101st, I'm almost sure of. I do know that his information and his name were...
Right, when they came ashore on Normandy Beach that time?
This was it. And his name was Private Rice Coronado. He jumped into D-Day.
How old was he? If I may?
Actually, I got them mixed up. It was actually Rice Coronado was a retired school teacher who jumped into Normandy originally. Now, what he did just the other day, our Green Berets of today, who our guest speaker Nick Lavery is one.
Yep.
That brings it together in a way, and then they jumped back into Saint Michael in France yesterday.
Oh, they did?
And they had Rice Coronado, who was 96 years old, going to be 97 in July, jump with them. He jumped into the landing gear, into the landing area, attached to one of obviously the Green Berets of now, but he jumped at 96 years old. Also, we have another private who became a legend. He actually was killed in Vietnam. I'm sorry, he was killed in France in 1944. The great thing about this boy, I have to say, and it's touching because he lied his age. He was 14 years old when he made his jump into Normandy, and he actually battled for quite a bit. He ended up dying on D-Day, and he's a beloved hero to this day. But just imagine that. I can't imagine at 14 years old jumping into a combat zone. At 14 years old, my biggest issue was playing hide and go seek and fake combat with my friends, let alone...
Or cops and robbers.
Right, or let alone jumping into the Nazis. I mean, and that's what you had at that time, and that's what we still have today, Morris. Like, we have men being around Memorial Day. We have men and women that have served this country for so many years with so much class, dignity, respect. They bring that back to the home front, and it's a blessing.
Right. I would like to honor a couple of World War II combatants, too. The first of all, I would like to honor the Tuskegee Airmen, who did a great job. They were some of the greatest heroes in World War II, but did not get the credit for it in World War II. I would also like to honor the women of World War II who served in the Rocks and the Waves, Army and Navy, because they never got a lot of credit. But thank you for your service. Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. And another group I'd like to give credit to that helped us win the war, and a pleasure I had, again, this weekend meeting one of them, was the Navajo Code Talkers.
Oh, yes, the Code Breakers.
Those gentlemen truly, they, at that point, it was something that they couldn't break. They couldn't break the Indian code. They couldn't, and it helped us win the war more or less, because we had. It wasn't Morse code. It was a language being spoken right over the wires, and no one else could understand it except these few trained.
Exactly.
And they really put their lives on the line and didn't come back to the greatest credit.
I got to tell you, Mark, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was watching American Heroes Channel a couple of days ago, and they showed the submarine where they got the Enigma machine out, where they captured it, and they broke the German code, but they couldn't do certain things. Like, they knew that certain cities were going to be bombed by the Nazis in England, but they couldn't tell them not to do it because the Germans would know that they got their code, so they had to keep quiet.
Right.
But thanks to that Enigma, the one who broke the code knew everything the Nazis were going to do.
Absolutely.
Right. I got to ask you a question, if I may. You do a great job. What are your plans for the future? Now, you mentioned something about every year having something else. Can you expand on that a little?
I can. So on our Vietnam Day breakfast that we mentioned at the beginning of the show, I've decided to make that a yearly tradition now. So that was our first annual. Every year I'm going to do a different era or a different war.
Oh, that's great.
Yes. So 1 year, like this year was Vietnam. Another year will be the Korean War, World War II. Even though sometimes these guys ain't going to be around and they won't be around forever, we men and soldiers my age have to be the ones to keep your era alive, and the only way to do is to keep having events like this, bringing up the history, making sure our children know the history, because that's the major important piece.
No offense to Revere High School, because it's one of the best high schools in the country. They have the best reputation. When some of the kids came down to our senior center, and I happened to speak to them about World War II, they were a little leery, or they didn't know what it was. But one of the kids came up with a good thing. I said to him, you know, when Roosevelt was my president, I could name all the presidents from Washington to Roosevelt. I could in school because we had to know that.
Right.
I says, can you name all the presidents from Washington to Trump? And one of the kids says, no, we can't. I says, well, I knew when I was young.
Right.
The kid had an answer for me. He says, when you were young, there was only 4 of them. Now there's 50 of them.
That was quick. That was quick.
So that kid was great.
Yeah.
Give me the answer.
But you're right, and it's up to us, the younger generation and the younger veterans and the younger, even civilians that support, because we need all the support we can get, keeping the memory alive, keeping the tradition alive.
Right.
And we have some great things happening in this city right now with veteran services. We've filed over 250 veterans claims this year. I think we've settled probably, today I actually got a call on the 16th 100%er.
Wow.
And they give, those are the calls that make me want to come back into work every day. The helping the veteran that has nowhere to go and has to stay in a car, or putting them up in a hotel. When someone can't afford to pay their rent and I'm able to help them out just that little bit. It's those special moments when you got someone that's coming in and they're struggling, and you have those same struggles, Morris, and you get to talk them through it. And it's not like I haven't experienced it, and that's what I love about my job, because I've walked that walk. I've been on the other side of the desk. I've needed the help, and now I'm there able to give it. And that's one of the pleasures of my job.
You're talking about giving help. I don't know the gentleman's name, but I was watching TV yesterday, and a gentleman who's a billionaire, offered to pay the graduation class.
I seen it.
To pay their tuition. And one
$56 million.
Right.
Yeah.
That shows you what America is like. Nowhere in the world do we have a country where people, you talk about philanthropy. That is one of the best. And did you hear what the other gentleman said? It was the greatest thing. He owned $150,000 on his education. Mm-hmm. By being paid off, he's going to do everything he can to repay the country for what the country did for him.
Yeah.
But like Kennedy always said, do not ask what you can do, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And
Absolutely.
I like that statement. It always stuck with me.
Absolutely.
And one more thing he said that always stuck with me. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach him
to fish,
you feed him for life.
For life.
And that's why I say to Bob Dunbar, I would like to thank him. He taught me how to work the cell phone and the computer. I could do it on my own now. I don't need any help. At the beginning, I had to count on other people, and I wasn't going anywhere. So you can see what the brains of the city of Revere really are.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Morris. And that was an idea that we've been putting together, me and now my assistant director, Donna Driesen.
She's great.
Yes.
Thank you, Donna, for your service.
We're working on next winter trying to have a class for the seniors on just the basics and getting to learn the computers and that stuff, because there's a real gap in generational wise where the technology just left a whole generation of people behind.
Can I tell you something on that?
And now you can't do anything without being on there,
Exactly.
Morris.
I didn't want to go. I was afraid to go near it. But you have no choice now. If you want to learn something, if you want to talk to people. I talk to people in Germany because of the computer. I talk even on Facebook, in German Facebook, not English Facebook. I mean, you can learn a language. You can learn. You got a math problem, the computer will tell you.
Right.
You got they have Alexa that can talk to you.
Yep.
They have Google that can talk to you. But I got to tell you, if I knew Alexa and Google were going to be here today, I never would have got married.
Well, I'm glad you brought up social media, Morris. Revere veterans, revere citizens, residents, please, to keep up to date on what's going on in the city for Revere veterans and our events, please, if you can, on our social media page with the City of Revere Veteran Services page, is everything from A to Z we put up. And I'd like everyone to go on, like and share our latest event for Memorial Day. Please, if you're a resident or a veteran in the city, I ask you to please come out on Memorial Day, May 27th, 2019, 11 a.m., and then the ceremony afterwards.
Right.
It's going to be an extra special event this year, Morris, with Nick coming in, and I'm pretty proud of the city in itself, and I'd like to see a big showing for Warrant Officer Nicholas Lavery.
Right, Mark, I want to say thank you for taking the time to come up here. I want to say thank you again. I want to say thank you to the people of Revere listening. God bless our troops, and God bless our great country, the United States of America. But most of all, also, God bless all our military veterans and those that are serving. Thank you. Till the next time.
Thank you, Morris.